What's up, everyone? This is Noa Dalzell, and I'm here with a brand new episode of You Got Boston, New Celtics podcast on CLNS, and here to react to the big news of the day. Recording this very late on Wednesday night, so this will be out on Thursday. But the big news is that the Celtics have signed Lonnie Walker to an Exhibit 10 training camp deal, and this is not something that I was expecting. I think I pretty much assumed that the news would be all wrapped up as far as new off-season content in the coming weeks. Certainly expected that Lonnie Walker would get signed this summer, but thought that it would be for more than a training camp deal. So we'll talk about all of that today, about Lonnie Walker, about what he might bring to the Celtics team, how his Exhibit 10 contract works, and just what this could mean for Boston. I will start off by saying I could not be more high on Lonnie Walker IV. I'm sure you'll hear lots of different people's takes and perspectives, and there is obviously a reason why he hasn't been signed to this point. He's not a perfect player, but I think for what he is, which will be effectively the last roster spot if he gets that, I think the upside is really, really high. So we'll talk about all that today. We'll also talk a little bit about Jrue Holiday. He did an event at Raising Cane's that I was at alongside David Ortiz, just kind of talking about his relationship with the city, winning an Olympic gold medal, and just what his summer was like, because this is really our first time hearing from Jrue since the championship experience. And so that was fun to just be able to chat with him today in downtown Boston. So all that is coming in this episode. Please do subscribe. It's You Got Boston on YouTube. You can also subscribe to CLNS Media, CLNS All Access. And then if you want the show on Apple or Spotify, you can just search in You Got Boston, my name, Noa Dalzell, and subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcasts as well. So do subscribe. The show will be coming out even more frequently starting next month. Media Day for the Celtics is September 24th. So we're literally already less than a month away from Celtics Media Day, and then we'll have so much coverage, you'll get sick of it. So I'm really excited for the fact that this offseason feels like it was so short. We had the championship, obviously the finals, we had Vegas Summer League, the draft, all that. Just a couple of weeks here with a little bit less going on since the Olympics, and then we get this surprise signing late Wednesday night, and that's the Lonnie Walker is joining the team. And so I'll start off by just sharing my initial thoughts. So Lonnie Walker, he's 25 years old. He's been in the league for 6 years. He's been on the Spurs, the Lakers, and the Nets. He's somebody that is clearly can be a very good scorer. He shot 38% from three last season for the Nets. For his career, he's averaging 9.8 points per game on 42.2% shooting. So he's never been super efficient, and I think that's maybe one of the knocks on him. But he's also somebody that can score when given the opportunity. He had 8 games last year where he scored 20-plus points. He had 17 games of 15-plus points, and he started over 75 games in his career. So this is not your average Exhibit 10 signing. And what an Exhibit 10 contract means is that it's a training camp deal. So he's going to compete for a training camp spot. If he doesn't make the team, but they send him to Maine, he gets a $77,000 bonus. So he gets that opportunity, at least to be able to get some guaranteed money, but this is not a guaranteed contract. So at first, when this news broke, Adrian Wojnarowski from ESPN shared that this was a 1-year contract. I assumed this was a veteran minimum 1-year deal. And then more information came out later. Shams Charania from The Athletic talked a little bit more about what this contract actually was, and it's an Exhibit 10. And it's not a contract that you would expect somebody of Lonnie Walker's stature, somebody that is, basically a double-figure scorer in his career who's not even in his prime, to have to settle for something like that. And to be honest with you, it's a little bit of a mystery to me why he was not able to get a bigger deal. I'm assuming that if he took this contract, he wasn't offered a veteran minimum elsewhere, unless he felt like where he was offered a veteran minimum, it wasn't a good place for him to grow. But the first thing that I want to say is that I think that this is a reflection of the Celtics and kind of the championship culture and just the culture in general that they've built for players. And I bring up Svi Mykhailiuk as a really good example of what playing for the Celtics can do for somebody, because he is a guy who was barely in the rotation last year. He shot well when he checked in, and he was always ready to go. But for the most part, he was a stay ready guy, right? He was a guy sitting on the bench, a guy that really wasn't performing a whole lot. Certainly not in the rotation during the playoffs and not really during the regular season with some exceptions. And Svi Mykhailiuk just signed a 4-year, $15 million contract with the Utah Jazz. And so it's a great data point, and it's a data point that the Celtics front office can point to show, hey, you come here for a minimum deal. Svi was a guy that, I wasn't sure if he was going to be able to make it in the NBA much longer, kind of bouncing around from team to team. Wins a championship, shows that he's a good locker room guy, probably gets rave reviews from everybody that in the Celtics organization. I know that when I asked Brad Stevens about O'Shea, he brought up Svi on his own accord, just wanting to bring up what a great guy he was and how he belongs in the NBA. And next thing you know, Svi gets a $15 million contract, right? It's a kind of dream come true type of thing. And so Lonnie Walker maybe is looking at the Celtics as a stepping stone to getting that bigger deal. In one hand, you can get that championship caliber experience. You can be around these great players, learn from the best defenders in the game when it comes to guards, between Jrue Holiday, Derek White, and even Jaylen Brown as a point of attack defender. But also, on the flip side of that, I'm surprised that he wanted to go somewhere where he is going to be so deep in the rotation. You would think that there's somebody somewhere else that he can go and get a veteran minimum deal, a team like the Pistons or a team like the Hornets, and maybe actually get some minutes. But he hasn't really been able to find that home, and he's talked about wanting to find an organization where he can stay long term. And so far, it hasn't been any of the 3 teams that he's played for. Initially it was the Spurs for 3 seasons. He played for the Lakers. He played for the Nets. And he just hasn't been able to find a place that, is his and somewhere that he can be for his career, and to sign that multi-year deal so that he's not just bouncing around from, organization to organization, which is obviously not the ideal for any player. And so he lands in Boston, and it's a training camp deal, and he's definitely going to be the talk of training camp. I was already thinking today, this is going to be, in a weird way, kind of a lackluster training camp in a sense, just because you literally have your entire team coming back from last year. And so you don't have like the new characters, the new people you want to meet, the new faces. Instead, you have a bunch of returners that you already know that you're going to ask them about repeating, right? But that's just an unusual circumstance. Now there's a guy who clearly there's going to be a lot of interest in talking to Lonnie Walker, getting a sense for why he chose Boston, what the situation, the setup is here. I don't know if there's an implicit promise or if there's an understanding that this is an Exhibit 10 that's likely going to turn into the 15th roster spot, or if this is just he's one of the guys that's going to be battling for that spot, and the implication is that he's going to be in the G League. I mean, I can't imagine him in the G League at this point in his career. Certainly would not have been my guess going into this offseason that Lonnie Walker was heading to the G League. But you just never know. I mean, sometimes things just don't shake out fairly, or, some guys just make a couple of bad business decisions. Maybe he had an offer at one point that he turned down. I think about O'Shea Brissett. O'Shea Brissett had a player option to opt into the second year of his contract with the Celtics. He could be a Celtic right now on a minimum contract. And I don't know if he has those kinds of offers available right now, or if he could go back in time, if he would want to sign. He wishes that he opted in, So you just never know. For some guys, it works out. Like Svi obviously worked out this year. And then you see guys sometimes go overseas and you're like, that guy couldn't make it. I remember talking to Jared Sullinger earlier this year, and Jared Sullinger was telling me, once you go overseas, you're kind of like out of the mix, and teams kind of view you as like you're not really in the picture anymore. And he's a guy that chose to go overseas relatively early on, and that was kind of the end of his NBA career. And so I think you got to play your cards well when you're one of those guys that's not a star, not a guaranteed guy, not a lottery pick, but a guy that is kind of a mid-tier, maybe you'll make it, maybe you'll have a really long career, maybe you won't. And so certainly that is, Lonnie Walker, he finds himself in this position that probably most of us didn't expect him to. And he ends up a Celtic. And I think for him, he's joining an organization that is renowned. It is a championship caliber organization, obviously. And he's going to be playing alongside Hall of Famers, between Jrue Holiday, Al Horford, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, just some of the best players in the league, and just guys that are experienced in so many different facets. So I'm sure from a mentorship standpoint, this team doesn't lack that. You wonder on the rotation, say he does make the team, which is my assumption. So he gets that 15th roster spot, signs the minimum deal after training camp. You would expect him to be in the bench rotation, at least during the regular season. And he's a guy that you can count on for a basket. He's a 9.8 point per game score in his career, right? And so you think that he's a guy that maybe plays alongside or competes for minutes with a Sam Hauser, maybe a guy like Jaden Springer, who I think some of you guys might know I'm pretty high on. Maybe this bumps him back a little bit, just because Lonnie Walker is a more refined offensive talent, at least that's the understanding right now. I think Jaden Springer hasn't had that many rotation minutes to really know what the situation is for him on the court. But I don't think Lonnie Walker is going to spend a lot of time in the G League at this point. So my prediction at this point, from what we know, and obviously things can change really quickly here, is that he goes to training camp, he impresses because he's an impressive player, and they sign him to that minimum contract spot, and then he is in the rotation. Honestly, that's what I think will happen. I'm really high on Lonnie Walker. I think if you're depending on how closely you follow the NBA, you may or may not have heard of him or remembered his name right away when you heard of the signing. And the first thing that I think about when I think about Lonnie Walker is the Lonnie Walker game in the 2023 postseason. He was a member of the Lakers in Game 4 of the Western Conference semifinals, Lakers-Warriors. Lonnie Walker, who had pretty much fallen out of the rotation, checks in and scores 15 fourth quarter points, 6 of 9 from the field. One of those like all-time performances where you just get chills watching, because you see a guy who is, on the fringe of in and out of the rotation, in and out of the league, dealt with his fair share of injuries and adversity. And he's been open on a lot of other issues that we can get into another time, but comes in and just has this masterful fourth quarter. Is the TNT interview. You can just tell that he's kind of pinching himself the whole time. And I thought that was going to be a breakthrough moment for Lonnie Walker, and that last year on the Nets, I thought he was going to be one of the primary options, and he wasn't that. And so you wonder if there's something about him that maybe we are not aware of, we, the media, fans, people that just follow the league. It's certainly something that I'll be talking to people over the coming days and getting a sense of if there is some sort of red flag or something that we're not, maybe is not being taken into account when we're evaluating Lonnie Walker as a player, because I know there were a lot of other NBA players that have spoken out about, like, this is weird that he didn't get signed yet. NBA Central posted it literally today. So I thought that was just ironic that the day that there's a Lonnie Walker highlight reel being passed around on Twitter of like, who's going to sign this guy? The Celtics sign him. And so yeah, this is not what I expected, but I think this is going to go down as a really good signing. I think Brad Stevens has done it again, because even if it doesn't work out, you didn't really lose much. And if it does work out, you might have like a real rotation piece, a really good bench player in the mix, and a young guy that's just not even in his prime yet. I think this is going to work. I got a good feeling about this. I've been a longtime fan of his. I feel a little bit like I felt when Jrue Holiday signed, but like obviously to a much lower extent, but just the guy that I've really taken a liking to, a guy that I've really liked his game, like the way he conducts himself, the way he talks, the way he, addresses the media and all of that, the way he just kind of carries himself in his work ethic and everything that I've seen from Lonnie Walker over the last few years, I've really liked. I was looking forward to following his career this year, regardless of where he landed. And I got the Woj notification, clicked on it, saw it said the Celtics. And I was like, no way. Like, how is this possible? How do they keep doing this? How does the league let them get away with this, getting the guy that was the biggest name still available in free agency? PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the best way to get action on sports in most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. PrizePicks is the only real money daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy so that your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, your picks are still alive. And it's fun, it's simple, it's the easiest way to do it. You can right now, just in time for football season, you can put your picks in on all players and stat types that you're selecting. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Another kind of fun fact that I saw about him today is that he's a career 59% shooter against Boston. So follows the long time habit that the Celtics front office has of signing players that are quote-unquote Celtics killers, players that have really excelled and played very well against Boston over the years. And O'Shea Brissett's an example of a guy that had 6 threes when he was on the Pacers against the Celtics. So O'Shea is certainly an example of that, of a guy that, maybe the Celtics front office notices him and they keep tabs on those players. And Lonnie Walker's a guy that's played really well against Boston, which is maybe part of why I have a high impression of him. Although really that Lakers game, the Lonnie Walker game, is the one that really stands out to me when I think about what he's capable of. And obviously it's just one quarter. You don't want to draw sweeping generalizations about a player from that, but really exciting. So that's my initial impression on Lonnie Walker. I guess just to sum it all up, I couldn't be more excited about August 28th. This is the notification that you get after a summer where you already re-signed your entire team on the heels of winning the NBA championship. And now you get this really promising guy to add to the bench mix. And this is a bench that was always a really good Celtics plus minus bench. Like, when we talked about the Celtics bench, they were outscoring opposing teams' benches. They were very effective defensively, but they were a low scoring unit. So it was more just that they were effective on the court, more as complementary pieces. You didn't have many shot creators. Pritchard at times, Hauser at times, but more catch and shoot. And Lonnie Walker might change that, might bring a dynamic that they were missing. The question with him is defensively. That's been where he's been a little bit inconsistent. And I would imagine that a training camp, what they're going to be looking for is if he can kind of grasp the Celtics defensive system, because if he can't, there you go. It's not going to work out for him in Boston. So hopefully he can. Hopefully he is able to figure this out and to kind of show the Celtics, coaches that he's a guy that they want to invest in and work with, and he sticks around and that he helps contribute the team in their pursuit of banner 19. I love going to events right now. It's football season. I love going to football games, concerts, really any events. Living in Boston, you can just put in any event into the Game Time app and you can get the best prices guaranteed. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So all you have to do is figure out what it is you want to attend. For example, I'm looking right now to get tickets for my family for opening night for the Celtics. So I can search that game in, browse through the seats on Game Time Picks. I can already see there's lots of great deals. There are super deals, different tiers of deals. And basically, as I'm looking, I'm able to actually see what the actual perspective of the court is from that particular seats. I have to make sure I don't want to get them seats that are in the balcony that are too far away. I can see what the court view is going to look like from those seats. So that way I'm able to choose without just looking at a seat number, which maybe doesn't mean anything to me. I'm able to see right away that this is a seat that I want to buy for my family members for opening night so that they can see the ring ceremony and the banner raising and all that fun stuff. So Game Time Picks makes curation much easier. It makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. It's all in pricing, so you can use this feature to see the total upfront price. So there's no fees at the checkout. So the price that it says is the price that it is. You get the panoramic view. You get a lowest price guarantee for Game Time. So if you find a lower price elsewhere, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And there's Game Time ticket coverage. So your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. So that's it on Lonnie Walker. The other thing I wanted to touch on today in today's episode of You Got Boston is Jrue Holiday, because was at an event at Raising Cane's in downtown Boston today, and it was a sort of grand opening. It was called the Golden Birthday of Raising Cane's. It's the 28th birthday on August 28th, and it was also the 828th franchise. So a whole lot of excitement around that for the restaurant chain. Obviously, Raising Cane's does a lot of stuff with athletes. I actually don't know how they managed to do that, how they managed to sign so many players to come and serve chicken. And Al Horford did it in the summer as well, right after they won the championship. But basically, Jrue Holiday was at Raising Cane's, as was David Ortiz, Red Sox legend, doesn't need any introduction, and also the artist Jake. I don't know if you guys know him, how much you follow that type of music, but Jake has a famous song called Golden Hour. He kind of blew up on TikTok. So they had this big event in downtown Boston. A bunch of media there, a bunch of fans. It was like early in the morning. It was a ribbon cutting. The entire restaurant is like gold covered right now. And Jrue Holiday was kind of the main attraction. He was there filming some commercials, some content, and I posted some stuff on Twitter. So if you're curious, you can check that out. My Twitter handle is @Noa Dalzell, so follow there. But we then had a little bit of a press conference with Jrue Holiday, which was a lot of fun because I haven't had the chance to ask him any questions since literally the night they won the championship. So it's been a while. And I'll just talk briefly about some of the things that stuck out to me from our conversation with Jrue. I asked him about what it's been like walking around the city since winning the championship versus how it was beforehand. And I love this quote. He said, before winning, I could go places, like it'd be kind of fun walking around. And then like now it's just, he gets stopped all the time. And that's what you hope, right? As a player, you want to be the guy that you're so beloved in the city where you play. And usually a championship is what delivers that. And I remember before the Celtics won the championship, Jason Tatum talked about how he already receives so much love walking around the city of Boston. And he basically said, I can't wait for what that will feel like once I help bring a title to the city. And now they've done that. And I think that none of those guys, none of the members of that title team will ever be received the same in the city. Probably will never have to pay for a meal. Will probably be stopped for photos and autographs everywhere they go for the rest of time, really. I mean, I saw the way that David Ortiz was received. Obviously, he's a pretty unique legend in his own right, but that's just the way that it goes when you help deliver a championship to a city that loves sports as much as Boston does. So Jrue was asked a couple of things that stuck out to me. Jrue was asked about the Olympics, really reflected on what a great experience that was. Mentioned Devin Booker and Steph Curry as two players that were just really easy to play with, guys that he was able to easily develop chemistry with. He mentioned Anthony Edwards as the biggest trash talker in the Olympic team. Probably doesn't come as a surprise to most of you. And then the other thing was that he was asked to compare the gold medal and then the championship, which is never a bad problem to have, that you're being asked to compare probably the two greatest feats that a basketball player can achieve. He achieved them 2 months apart. And he said that winning in Paris was awesome. It was very unique, especially because it was against France in France. So he said it was kind of like an us against the world type of thing. But he did say winning here was amazing. I'm not sure anything tops that. So it does sound like the championship trophy, the championship hoisting. Well, I guess, yeah, I guess the trophy was hoisted. I'm recording this at 1 a.m., so apologies. But he did kind of discuss just like the parade was so crazy. The whole thing was so overwhelming that he's still kind of riding a high from all of that. So it was great to hear from Jrue. He was his usual friendly, good mood, just reflecting on what a summer it's been for him and for Derek White and for Jason Tatum as well. Jrue was asked about Tatum's DNPs and whether he talked to him about that. And he said, Tatum's fine. He's a professional. He wasn't worried about all that. So kind of the standard PR answer that you would expect from Jrue Holiday. And I think that'll be the standard answer in general, because I'm sure during media day and training camp week, there's going to be a whole lot of questions about, Tatum Olympic experience, Jaylen Brown's Olympic experience. And I think we're going to get a whole lot of PR and probably just people saying the right thing and making it a non-story, which I think that ultimately will have to be a non-story because it's going to be, months after the fact and, ultimately not the team. The Olympic team is not the team that we're here to talk about, right? So we'll see about all that, but that was Jrue Holiday's response. And then Holiday was also asked about re-signing the entire roster, and he said, I think it's going to help a lot. It's always hard to win one, but to win back-to-back is even harder. So I think just kind of getting a head start on other teams where we have the continuity. So he is high on the fact that the Celtics brought everybody back. Again, this was a couple of hours before the Lonnie Walker signing was announced, so we didn't get to ask Jrue about that. But in a couple of weeks, the whole group will be back together, and we'll be able to talk to Jrue, to Lonnie Walker, hopefully, and to the rest of the team. So I have a story on Celtics blog about the Jrue Holiday event, including, it was funny when Jrue Holiday was answering my question about kind of how he's been received in Boston. David Ortiz walked in and interrupted him, and they embraced in the middle. And it was just very cool just to hear David Ortiz talking about what it was like for him to follow the Celtics throughout the playoff run. He said, I'm a Celtic, I cry, I scream. Holiday said, I can vouch for that. So I think those two have a little bit of more of a friendship than I would have known. But Ortiz also said that it was just really cool to see Al Horford win a championship. Al Horford became the first Dominican athlete to win an NBA title. So super cool on that front. And he said, so that made the experience even more special for him. So all in all, it's a really cool event. Lots of posts and videos and quotes on my Twitter. So if you want more coverage from that event, you can check it out as though you're there. Also have the stories I mentioned on Celtics blog. And then we'll have more Lonnie Walker coverage analysis. I'm sure we'll discuss it all as a group as well. But for now, just wanted to put out my initial thoughts. I think it's going to be one of those moves where one day people are going to go back and say, how did Brad Stevens get this done? And nobody's going to really know. And the same way that we look now at the Derek White trade, obviously to a lower extent, I don't think the ceiling is quite as high, but there's just no risk. So you gotta give Brad kudos for continuing to make good moves one after the other. So I'm really excited about it. We'll have more coming up soon. For now, please subscribe. You Got Boston is the YouTube channel, Spotify, Apple, wherever you can get it. Please listen. You can share with your friends, comment, subscribe. Feel free to reach out to me on Twitter if you have any questions, criticism, feedback, ideas, whatnot. For now, thanks for listening. I'm Noa Dalzell, cover the Celtics for Celtics blog and SB Nation and CLNS media, and also cover the WNBA. So have a great rest of your day and your weekend. I'll be going live on Sunday, so check back in and we'll answer any questions you might have on Lonnie Walker or anything else.